Okay, thanks, Chris. So let's start off here talking about how patient one needs to be with their Performance Max campaigns. Chris, we all know with Google Ads, what even if it's a regular search campaign, manual bids, things do take a little bit of time to ramp up. Um, Performance Max campaigns, you add all the assets, you add the audience signals, and then what? What is your kind of time threshold that you're willing to wait before you basically even check results?
I mean, it's a great question, Jason, because in reality, I I have to divorce myself from my standard check and fix mentality from a normal Google Ads campaign. If I launch a search campaign, I'm going to be in that campaign the next day, watching, seeing what happens. I might be making uh, bid adjustments, keyword adjustments, match type adjustments. But in Performance Max, absolutely not the process that I follow. I've heard it said, a 2 week time period.
Mhm.
Don't touch anything for 2 weeks. That's what people have told me. That's what I've read, and I mean, that's fine with me because you don't start a Performance Max campaign in order to micromanage it.
Yeah, that is a great point, and that's I think a mindset issue that some clients that I've worked with and just some people in the industry I've talked to are having with a little problem they're having with Performance Max is they're saying, "Well, what about demographics are very important to us?" And it's like, well, that doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
Define your conversions, make sure those are real conversions, and the system will kind of figure that out for you. Now, you can turn off demographics if you want to, but if you're in a gray area on any of them, yeah, you should let the system kind of figure out how they're going to convert for you. Uh, I think 2 weeks is a good rule of thumb. Um, every every performance max that I've set up so far that I've actually checked has been on long term existing accounts. I've set it up on a couple new accounts, but I haven't even checked them because that's been in the last. Haven't checked the
Yeah.
performance max because that's been in the last couple weeks. My point that I'm getting at is I think it's got to make sense that the longer an account has been running regular search campaigns, whatever, I think it means that's the performance max will kind of get ramped up quicker because that just
Hmm.
makes sense. It'll have more data to judge. But even in that case, I would say 2 weeks is my threshold where uh, I'm looking at it, but I'm not really making any changes as long as things seem okay. Now, I was setting up running a performance max campaign the other day for a moving company, Chris, and I'm not being snarky with our little inside joke where about moving companies with what you told me a couple weeks ago, and we'll keep that between us. Literally, this happened on a moving company, so I just have to give the example that I have here, Chris. So don't get triggered. But I set up Performance Max. I did not check it for a few days because it's Performance Max. You got to give it time
Yeah.
to ramp
Sure.
up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I noticed like our overall account cost per click was getting into like the very small under a dollar range. And this is a moving where cost per clicks would be $15 to $30 or something like that. And I'm like, what is going on? And I also didn't see good conversion data coming in. I'm like, where are my performance max conversions? I realized that I left people in versus people in or interested in advanced location setting. I left people in and people interested in on. I've seen that to work sometimes on Performance Max. It makes sense for certain industries. For a local moving company, it didn't make sense to do. And I think we were getting some traffic from outside
Mm.
normal
Yeah.
areas. So normal this country. So it was not a good situation, but I caught it. So I would say you still want to look at your data.
Okay.
And as long as everything looks reasonable, give it a few weeks to kind of show conversion data and see what it's going to do. But if you feel in your gut that something's wrong, like I did with the super small cost per click and the super high impression volume, double check your settings and you might be able to catch something. And then, Chris, one other tip: you're looking at a screenshot here. Why don't you walk through what people will see like in the first week or two in their Performance Max Insights page
Yeah.
versus what they'll see in the Insights page once things are up and running?
Yeah. So when you first launch the account, I have to applaud Google here because when you first launch a Performance Max campaign, you see kind of a progress dial going across, and this I think this is great because this communicates the one thing that people are going to freak out about. They're going to see a bunch of zeros, at first. If they were to show, what you see on a normal search campaign, lots of zeros, a lot of confusion about what's happening. They're going to check it the next day, the next hour. They don't know the anticipation of how fast they should be expecting things. But this shows that, hey, you've done everything that you're supposed to do. You're now receiving impressions, and then the next step in this progress is you should start getting conversions. And it's not going to start showing you data until 1 to 2 weeks later. It's going to start showing you a graph to say, here's actually what's been happening. So I think that's great. It only reinforces, that this is not a hands-on type of thing. Set the thing up and let it sit. That's what it's designed to do. Yeah, let it cook.
Chris, don't you love that the end goal and the timeline here that you get very close to early on is straight up right to conversions, and they give you an estimated time period of how many more days it's going to take to get conversions?
It's unlike anything else in Google, for sure.
I just, every day I wake up and for the first 5 minutes of the day, I'm like, I am the CEO and chairman of Alphabet. That's where my ego is these days. And then I look around and I realize I'm not. But for those first 5 minutes, I like to think what I would do. And the person that came to me and created Performance Max and came to me and said, this is going to be the timeline, and we're going to give people an estimated amount of days until they get conversions. First of all, I'd be like, that's freaking amazing, but I don't believe you. And then the second thing I would tell them, I am going to fire you in front of the entire company if this doesn't work because of the claims you're making right now. But it ended up working. So they got a raise.
It's very
Chris, speaking of my ego, we don't have to talk about what kind of account, what industry, but would you please look at the insight screenshot for an established Performance Max campaign right below this and kind of tell the people what kind of ROAS I'm getting?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you say, so let's break it down. ROAS is return on ad spend. So this is based on value. Okay. So I'm going to say a number that's not really going to mean anything if you think about volume of conversions. We're talking about value, which is one of the factors that you can calculate the performance of a Performance Max campaign is based on the value, the return of what you're getting. So the value on this screenshot shows that the return on ad spend is 200%.
No, 2,452%.
Okay, so, well,
24 to 1.
You either look at it as a 24 to 1 return or a percentage.
No, but you're I don't know if you're just misreading it or you're intentionally downgrading my results publicly here.
No.
But look at the target. The current target is 200%. I've asked the system to get me a 2-to-1 return on my conversions,
and it got a 24 to 1.
And it got a 24 to 1. Yeah, so it's not. I'm not getting a 200% return. I'm getting a 2,452% return.
It's I mean, it's
pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I have questions.
You can leave it there. You can leave it there. We're not taking questions today.
We're not taking questions. That's it.
It looks great. Thank you.